This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast Mailbag for this Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Let's jump right in, everybody. Let's jump right into those emails, and I'm gonna start with of course, a patron and our friend Charlie, and Charlie from Milwaukee. He says, "Can't wait for SmackDown on Friday, and I can't wait to do a weekend review with you this Sunday." What? I don't remember. It's possible. I just don't remember having this particular weekend review booked up. But news to me. All right. Well, anyway, let's just say Roman loses to LA Knight at Crown Jewel and The Rock doesn't show up. Where do you go from there? I think you could do a trade where you bring Imperium from SmackDown and Pretty Deadly and whoever the United States champion is over to Raw. So if Roman loses to LA Knight at Crown Jewel and The Rock doesn't show up, yeah, that's interesting because it's all with the presumption that Roman has the title for WrestleMania. So if he doesn't, he loses. LA Knight's champion. You could, I guess, do a rematch with Roman and LA Knight. Very unlikely, though. If Roman loses and there's no Rock, then that leaves, I don't even know where you go from there. CM Punk? It's got to be an exhibition of some sort if there's no title involved. That's an interesting question. It's the most unlikely of scenarios out of all the different combinations of things, but it's still one that I have not considered. So thank you, Charlie. All right. Finally, I was listening to a podcast where Ric Flair was asked if his Mount Rushmore of WWE wrestlers. Who would your Mount Rushmore be? For me, it's Undertaker, Hogan, Cena, and Rock. Also, for any Arizona Diamondbacks and Texas Ranger fans out there, congratulations on making it to the World Series. Have a great week, everyone, and go Pack, go. All right, Charlie, thank you. And my Mount Rushmore, I feel like this kind of changes by the week, depending on how I feel. But most consistently, I think you have, for me, very uninterestingly, Rock, Austin, Taker, Hogan. That's, again, you could swap out, Triple H even in there. I think you could swap out a Ric Flair in there. It's such a subjective question. It's like, what are your top four guys? This is essentially what you're asking. So, but yours is good. Hogan, Cena, Rock, Taker. How can you go wrong with that? My only switch out is Austin for Cena. But absolutely. And as far as Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers, boy, you talk about a Cinderella story for the Diamondbacks. Wow. And it's not exactly going to be a large market when it comes to ratings. So I'm sure that the Foxes of the world are like, son of a, right? Because they hope that one of the big markets like a Boston or a New York or an LA or a Chicago end up winning or at least getting to the World Series. In this case, how many Arizona Diamondbacks or Texas Ranger fans has anyone actually met out there? Now, I know people listen that are in Texas. I know people that are out there in Arizona that listen to the show. But as you're just kind of walking through daily life, if you're not in one of those states, like how many Texas Ranger fans are actually in existence? How many Arizona Diamondbacks fans are in existence in real life? Not too many. So I'm excited for the fans, though. If you guys are fans of those teams, that's awesome. This is going to be a fun World Series. All righty, Charlie, thank you. And we'll talk about I believe you, but I just don't remember about the weekend review. If you're going to SmackDown, now I'm imagining the reason we agreed to it is because you're going to SmackDown on Friday. I'm imagining that's why. All right. Let's talk to another patron, Anthony. Anthony Capella says, "Good morning. You guys are killing it on the podcast. Helps me get through the day at work. We are allowed to have an earbud in to listen to music and podcasts, so I won't get in trouble." Well, that's good to know. Some people, they just roll the dice. And I'm glad to know that it's good to know that you're not going to get yourself fired. Maybe I'm seeing this the wrong way, but I feel like the women's division is an afterthought in the writing room. I imagine the writers having 10 minutes left in their writing session and saying, okay, let's hammer out the women's storylines. The non-existent title defenses of Rhea and lackluster storytelling for EO make me feel like the women's titles are props and not actual championships with meaning. The Rhea and Baszler match was looking really good, but then it gets interrupted and boom, another gimmicky multi-person match at the PLE. They have so many amazing, talented women and they're underutilized. Instead of some throwaway men's matches, they need to focus on the ladies. If you're seeing something different, then roll out a classic rant on why I'm wrong. Also, I like how you and Anthony in recent weeks are making the distinction of disliking the Cody character and not the actual person. Yes, there is very much a distinction. Absolutely. It's just that's what it is. Now, this is a question to DJ from Anthony, and he says, how many the Veers can he fit without it getting ridiculous? I look forward to his report. I look forward to his report every week. Keep up the good work and take care. How many veers can a veer? I don't know. How many wood can a woodchuck chuck? I was trying to make the analogy. It's too late in the night for me to make that. That said, so the women's division being disrespected or forgotten has been a chronic problem in professional wrestling up until the women's revolution. And by the way, speaking of which, remember that all-woman pay-per-view Evolution? That actually was one of the better pay-per-views of the entire year that year. Why hasn't that happened again? How do you have a banger pay-per-view with all women, and then it happens? It was like a one-off. How does that happen? It's weird. But they have certainly gone off the rails with the women's division generally. So many directions you can go. So I'm actually not going to go on a rant to disprove you or try to argue with you. It feels like they are an afterthought. I mean, the tag titles are habitually rather, a disaster. They are truly cursed. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are hopefully coming up with some antidote to lift this actual curse on the women's tag titles, which is an embarrassment. They also have Io Sky, as you said, who is an afterthought. She doesn't feel like a real champion. She's never the real story. They don't give her a voice. The fans are reacting kind of indifferently towards her lately. And then you look at the other side of the women's division on the Raw side, and you have Becky Lynch, who's the NXT Women's Champion, but spoiler, okay, I gave you warning. She's no longer the NXT Women's Champion, but she had a good run. And she was stuck in a program with Trish Stratus that went on way too long. You have Rhea Ripley, as you said, who's the Women's World Champion that is arguably one of the biggest stars on Raw, but doesn't actually seem to, up until recently, have actual programs with women who are trying to take her championship. Now, yes, Shayna and her were on something. They had something there. But Shayna Baszler has had also kind of this start-stop, unstoppable buzzsaw, snapping people's arms and then goes back into obscurity issue for several years now with WWE. I mean, she'll snap someone's arm, go on a tear, and then she just disappears for like 3 months. And then she's jobbing to somebody. It's bizarre. And as far as the multi-woman match, at least here's the thing. Now, I understand it's kind of just multi-woman matches, multi-person matches, generally men or women, is kind of it's a creative crutch where you don't have any particular interesting one-on-one storyline. So you just kind of throw everyone in and hope that deodorizes the fact that, or hides the fact that you don't have an actual compelling storyline. But on the flip side, the positive side, it gets more women in ring time in a championship match. So that's a positive. And yes, Rhea Ripley has a very high chance of retaining the championship, if not a nearly lock-it-in guarantee. But it does give Zoe Stark ample opportunity to maximize her minutes. By the way, in a country that only up until the last couple of years has allowed women to actually compete, or rather, in this case, perform in front of an audience. That's all you need to know about their view of women, and that's their culture. Okay, it's not everyone doesn't always think like us. Okay, I know in America we think that people think like us around the world, and that's just not the case. But it is what it is over there. So you have more women getting more time in a championship match. That's a good thing. Okay, but in general, I don't think they've handled it very well with her championship run. Even though she's been very hot in the Judgment Day, she hasn't done a whole lot to help the women's division. She's done a lot to help the men on the Judgment Day side of things, but she's the women's world champion. That's been the problem. So, all right. Well, thank you, Anthony. All right, let's see. We've got another patron, King Scully in the house. He's representing the UK all day. He says, "Hey, Matt, how you doing? Happy 3-year anniversary to the Mailbag." Honestly, guys, seriously, as I said last week and the week before, without you guys, I would have never known it was a 3-year anniversary of the Mailbag. So thank you. Can I talk to you about a pointless storyline? The Bloodline fiasco. All right. Jimmy no longer wanted to be in the Bloodline. It was him that turned on Reigns and wanted his brother Jay to join him out of the Bloodline. Then Jimmy cost Jay the title against Roman. Had a weird reason why he did what he did, especially after what happened next. Jay quit SmackDown and WWE, partly because of the shenanigans with the Bloodline. Jimmy wants back in to the Bloodline after Jay's gone, and when Roman finally returns, Roman just pretends Jimmy never did all that. Meanwhile, our hero, Cody Rhodes, brings back Jay to Raw. Within a month, or however long it was, Cody and Jay are the tag team champions. Jay's back on SmackDown, and then Jimmy costs Jay and Cody the titles on Raw. Jay then gets some revenge on SmackDown. We're back to where it started. So my question is, what is the point of all this? Surely it would have been easier if Jay just stayed on SmackDown in the first place. Not only that, but why wouldn't Jimmy and Solo want to have been the ones to take the belts off of Cody and Jay? Why would Jimmy help the Judgment Day? All right. Well, here's the thing before we change subjects. I don't know and I don't care. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to you. I mean that in the fact that I just don't want to think about intra-family Civil War storylines with the Bloodline anymore, and that all of them, even former members like Jay, need to move the F on to people outside of the Bloodline. Move outside. Expand your horizons. You are probably the only one to dictate that timeline for me, and it is perplexing as they kind of went in a big circle and wondered, what the hell are we doing? I don't think they knew that the destination would be a big circle until they realized they were about 75% of the way through and go, oh, well, I guess we're going to end where we started. It is bizarre. And I don't want to give too much thought into it because I don't know if there is a point. I don't even know if you sat down all the writers and said, well, why? They would come up with a cohesive, unified answer. They probably wouldn't. So I don't want to invest a whole lot of time and effort and energy into thinking about it because I'm done and completely over the intra-family nonsense, which is also probably why Roman just accepted Jimmy back instead of just going through that whole rigmarole of Roman acknowledging, no pun intended, Jimmy doing what he did, and all of a sudden he just accepts him back, and Jimmy's acting weird now. He's not really, I don't care anymore about Civil War storylines. I care about other guys getting an opportunity, especially a crack at Roman. I don't want to see Jimmy versus Jay, even though I know that's what we're going to get. I don't care about Solo versus Jay, Solo versus Roman. I don't want to see any of that crap right now. And I say crap, not that it's going to be bad, but that we've been on this same boat, traveling down the same body of water for many, many months now. So to me, it's done. That's all I got to say about that. All right. Anyway, food for thought. We've briefly spoken on here about referees' fast counts, but why don't they ever mention the ref's name? I was thinking this while watching Raw and SmackDown. No mention of their names. When they're in the past, we knew who they were. Earl Hebner, Dave Hebner, Tim White, Charles Robinson, Nick Patrick, Mike Chioda, Teddy Long, etc. I don't know any of their names of the current officials. I recognize their faces, especially Mr. Muscle Fake Tan. Oh yeah, I know. Also, I hope no one ever kicks out of the tsunami. That splash by Bronson Reed should beat everyone. Well, yeah, I mean, finishes in general have a perpetual problem of being kicked out of way too much. Just generally as a fan, no matter who hits their finish, you think in your mind, they'll probably kick out, they'll need to. That's an awful way and kind of counterintuitive to calling something a finish when you know it's not going to finish a match. They need to bring back actual just respect to finishes. But to your question about the referees don't get the credit they deserve. They are an absolutely critical, integral role to the wrestlers in the ring. Obviously, they communicate back to the wrestlers from anything they want to know backstage or need to know from backstage. They make sure that there are no actual injuries, and if there are, they can call medical. That in real life they do that. They know the finish, so they know who needs to be where. They're a very important part, but also invisible part of wrestling. So, I mean, they get more camera time than nearly anyone, and yet they're never mentioned. I agree that they should at least say the names. It doesn't have to be every single time, but start to make it more of a habit. It'd be respectful to the referees themselves, but also I think it would help legitimize what's going on in the ring. That I think would help too. So, yeah, I would agree. The referees are just an invisible entity that's just there, but they are useless at times and are often distracted and all that. And sure, to me, the biggest issue is the 3 count. I challenge anybody. Pick any 3 count. Hit a stopwatch. You tell me from the moment somebody hits that 1 count, that 1, 2, 3 is truly 3 seconds. My favorite pacing of all time is Earl Hebner. His 3 counts were true 3 counts. So, alrighty. Thank you, buddy. Let's get to DJ Kuzmo. He says he's back at it again. And how about that? How about Ricochet finally getting his comeuppance against Logan Paul? I enjoyed watching Ricochet quickly beat up Logan, and I was like that creative revisited this story angle of Ricochet versus Logan that was paused after SummerSlam. Even though Logan has a U.S. title match against Ray at Crown Jewel, I would like to see a Ricochet Logan Part 2 for Survivor Series, especially with the involvement of Samantha Irvin. That, I think, is probably going to happen. Maybe not one-on-one. You might have a triple threat with Ray versus Logan versus Ricochet for the U.S. title at Survivor Series. You could also put Ricochet, if they're doing it, into a War Games match. I mean, imagine what he can do in there. But if Ray bows out, then sure, Ricochet versus Logan Paul for the U.S. title if Logan wins. Sign me up. That was probably the highlight of Ricochet's career, was bringing in Logan Paul. I'm just a bit confused with Dom's involvement in this Logan Paul, Rey Mysterio, and Ricochet layered story. I don't know, but to me, Dom should focus on defending the North American title and assisting the Judgment Day. Plus, the deadbeat dad stuff is being brought up again. I just hope creative doesn't do another Ray versus Dom feud, because the WrestleMania of this year was the conclusion of that feud. That's all for now. Veer Mahan report coming. Yeah. So yeah, I actually wouldn't mind Ray versus Dom one more time. It doesn't have to be at WrestleMania, and it shouldn't be at WrestleMania at 40. But I wouldn't mind it at some point. The deadbeat dad stuff is, even though it's not used every single week, it is a bit tiresome. I would agree. But outside of the connection here with the U.S. title being really the only loose connection for Dom to even be involved in this, you can't deny that there is mega heat. This may be, if they ever team up, Dom and Logan Paul. I mean, imagine that team. in front of a crowd. If they are in a tag team match, especially in a high-profile matchup, or they're challenging for the tag titles or something, imagine that team involved in a big storyline. They seem to just, their energies work. So they may be testing out a potential Logan Paul, Austin Theory, Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio team. Maybe. That's what I think. Okay. Let's get to, let's see, Amber. Amber says, "Hey, Matt, I know you get tons of emails, so I'll keep it short. With the WWE announcement today of Bash in Berlin, Germany in August, I'm really hoping we'll see Gunther main event the show and capture his first world title. Do you think this is likely? And if so, who do you think he will face? I think a babyface Gunther versus a heel Drew for the World Heavyweight Championship would be a ton of fun and potential match of the year. Have a great evening. Love the podcast, Amber." Well, thanks, Amber. So I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me about Bash in Berlin. I would imagine Gunther does. Now, he's from Austria, not Germany. However, close enough, right? Gunther at that point in August, like we're talking 10 months down the road, he's probably not IC champion anymore. He probably had beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, if that's the plan. And he may have already captured the world title. It's possible. However, if he doesn't, heel Drew versus babyface Gunther is a real possibility, because it's going to be very difficult to turn Gunther heel or keep him heel in that environment in Berlin. Very difficult. So I think you could turn Gunther babyface. I don't think it's impossible. And you have a fun main event, as you mentioned, with Drew at Berlin. Or Roman. What about Roman Reigns versus Gunther at in Berlin? If Roman's still champion by then and Gunther beats him. How about that? To whet your appetite. All right. Thank you, Amber. And another patron here. We've got Freeman, and Freeman says, "Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is that you listen. This has been an incredible week as the new rising super storyline has appeared in WWE. And that is Akira Tozawa joining Alpha Academy. I'm not being sarcastic. This is generally a storyline that I'm loving. Not everything needs to be super serious, and this pairing hits me the way that I didn't know I needed. The chemistry Akira has with the rest of the Alpha Academy is fantastic, and it makes their whole gimmick leap off the screen. Tozawa really is the star of my heart. He is even a groundbreaker not too many people in the men's division can claim, having a match with Rhea and landing blows on her. Yeah, I mean, but they were very soft, and they tiptoed, they threaded that needle as best they could. I want to see Rhea Ripley versus like Kevin Owens. Give me a real threat, not a men's comedy act. However, I would agree that Akira Tozawa has nice chemistry and has found a nice home with the Alpha Academy. I would. Now, if you're a fan of the Alpha Academy and you were a fan of Chad Gable, which I know you're going to talk about later in your email, then you would look at this and say, well, all of the seriousness that Chad showed with the Gunther matches, a series of matches that he had. And by the way, he challenged Gunther to a fourth, and we're all supposed to forget that. Remember? During the IC title celebration, it just got forgotten. However, Chad turning serious was, we were hoping at the time, some kind of launch pad for his career. And it wasn't. It was just, have fun while you're at it, kid. But after this, you're going back to the Alpha Academy as a comedy act. Now, not that these men don't have comedic ability. All of these men do. All three men do. And comedy's really hard, especially in wrestling. But I was hoping it would be more for Chad. And it's not. That said, there is a place for this. As you said, everything doesn't need to be super serious. I totally agree. All right. So my only annoyance is that to follow this, I have to watch the digital exclusives. And man, that's been a minefield. The content is good. However, the timing of the digital exclusives means you can't watch them and get a good experience. There are segments in there that obviously cut promos for Raw, meaning to Meaning to follow them in order, you would have to stop watching Raw, check after each match the digital segments, and then hope they don't spoil anything from the main events bits you haven't watched yet. I don't see how you're supposed to fit these in. Yeah, well, most people don't watch them in order like that. Most people, I mean, if you're watching Raw live, I mean, that's not a cohesive and very smooth viewing experience, because you're not going to want to switch platforms and go, oh, well, is there anything? And also, to be frank, most people don't watch those. You get a few 100,000 per view or per clip, but in the grand scheme of how many millions are watching and how long the clips are up, most of the audience, most of them don't watch them. So, but I'm with you. I did see that clip, and I do enjoy what I've seen with Alpha Academies thus far. So, another disappointing fact is Chad Gable has now moved down to doing promos and having a full storyline with Akira Tozawa. I'm pretty sure this means that any hopes of him taking the title from Gunther are well and truly dead, which is a shame. He's obviously talented, and a singles run for him would do very well. I'm just hoping he gets a push at some point. Yeah, same. Agreed. Regarding Gunther's title reign, I, like many others, thought he would drop it quickly after beating the record, but they seemed content on keeping it on him. Do you feel like this is down to them not having much for him to do after the given the cues building up or for the other belts, or that there are no real contenders left for him in the Intercontinental title? Well, I mean, I don't think there's ever not anyone left, because you can always have repeat matches. You can bring somebody up. You could make a trade. You can still help elevate people that are there. However, I don't want him defending his belt a lot. And Gunther creates a perfect template for how a champion and championship matches should happen. He tells everyone they have to earn it. He has respect for the championship. He doesn't back down, but he's also knows who and what he is and the caliber of person that deserves to face him for the belt. And he wants everyone at their best. Yet he's a heel. It's pretty amazing that he's a heel, given all these things. And that's how a champion should, I think, especially a babyface champion, treat their challengers. But instead, it's first come, first serve, any and everybody, come on in. It's so disrespectful to the championship, waters down championship matches and what they mean, and just so much more. To go over to SmackDown for a moment, I'm surprised out of all the things you call out for breaking impression, you didn't call out the microphone malfunction in the Charlotte Flair versus Io Sky match. The match overall was good, but hearing Flair making move calls out to Sky breaks all immersion instantly, more so than any welcome to the show call out. This should be wrestling rule number one, and we all know mistakes happen, but that one should probably never happen. Well, it's going to happen. That's the thing. It's not like it used to be. The mics are so sensitive now. It's just so that you can hear all the slamming on the mat that makes it sound louder, and it enhances the experience. At the same time, it does also create drawbacks like this, where if you're calling a match, you got to be careful of your volume and somehow conceal it. I mean, yeah, I really just kind of forgot about it, honestly. So I'm glad you brought it up. But no matter how good you are in the ring or how many years you've had, this is still going to happen. It just is. We're in, with all the technology, as I said, and all the mics that are around the ring, it's going to happen. And it is a take you out of the moment for sure type of thing. But it's one that we just have to kind of live with. And the talent just need to continue to be more aware of their surroundings and more aware of the microphones. So, all right. Oh, boy. So I think, does that do it for now? I know I've got more here. I think I have another Badfish email. I might. He says, I just finished Raw and have another fantasy booking. This is really quick. It seems like Judgment Day is going to be involved with Seth and Drew, the Justin Drew match, one way or the other. They're leaning too far into it and Rhea approaching both men. So my thought is the Judgment Day helps one star win, and after the win, they beat up the champion. Damian cashes in. Yeah, that's a really good observation. Yes. I think that's very, very possible that maybe Drew doesn't turn heel. What if Drew doesn't turn heel? He wins, But then the Judgment Day beat him down. Damian cashes in. Very, very possible. Or Seth. Seth retains. Judgment Day come down, beat both men to a pulp. Damian cashes in and wins. Keep an eye out for that. Very, very good observation. All right, that does it for the emails. Told you. Thank you guys for being brief in your emails. All right, let's get to the voicemails. Here we go.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is Sharon from Israel. I'm still alive. No, I'm in a good, I don't know how much you can say good, but in a good place in all of the war in Israel. Yes, my town is far from the bombing, and I get the luck to not be in the parts there was the really bad things, so I'm in a good place. So far, so good. That's for one thing. I did wrote you an email. I don't think you see that because you didn't wrote me back. I will be happy to do a conversation with you on Friday. Next Friday, maybe if you want, we can even do like a preview show before the Crown Jewel show. If you want to do something together, yeah. If you can do it next Friday, or maybe we can find another day. Write me back in the email. That's a second thing. Third thing, I just heard that it's going to be events in Europe for WWE. They're going to have like events like in Berlin, in Paris, and if I will be alive, there won't be World War III and everything will be okay. I will probably be in one of those events. So yeah, I'm crossing fingers that everything will be fine for that. I gotta say that I really conflicted about the idea of Roman Reigns versus LA Knight. Yeah, for the World Heavyweight Championship, not for the World, from the Championship Roman Reigns, that it's happening right now. Because I gotta say that I really wanted LA Knight to be a champion, but I'm really afraid that because he's going to lose to Roman, his story will end like really fast. And in the last few times, Roman won with the help of another, and this made the opponent look like weak. They didn't know that it will happen, although it happened like every single time. And yeah, so I'm really worried about that. Last thing, I'm sorry, Matt. Then going to do Raw versus SmackDown. It's going to be Survivor Series Raw versus SmackDown. I'm sorry, I know you don't like it, but that's it. And you know, I have a war in Israel, so there is the worst thing that Raw against SmackDown, so don't complain about it. We will get through Survivor Series and Raw against SmackDown, and things will be fine, I hope. Yeah, so it was great to talk to you. Bye.
Well, I got to say, the addition of the crickets really adds to the ambiance of the show. It really was pleasant. Okay, several things here. Number one, yeah, let's try to do the preview and prediction show for next Friday. And for me, it would be morning. I can definitely do morning. And for you, it would be evening time. So if it's like 8 a.m. here, what would that be for you? Like 3 p.m., something like that. Morning is better for me, which means like afternoon or evening for you. I'll email you. We can get exact times. But yeah, sure. Come on, we'll do the preview and prediction show for Crown Jewel. Now, as far as LA Knight being derailed, that does scare me a bit. However, the yeah movement can't be denied here. They really can't just have LA Knight lose, which he probably will, and then have him go back to just interrupting the Miz. I hope not. That I think would be a critical mistake. But really, to me, the most interesting part isn't even the match itself with Roman, because I think it's, for me, it's like 5 months too early. However, the most important and interesting thing to me is the follow-up. Because likely Roman's going to cheat to lose, or cheat to win. How does LA Knight respond? Where do they go? That's the most interesting part to me, that concerns me. Now, WWE going overseas, more events. I mean, they're trying to really globalize the brand in a way that they haven't done in the past. Before, it would be like, okay, they go to Saudi Arabia every year. They might do like another show, one in like Australia, and then they have like 90% of the events in the US. Now they are going everywhere. My God. And I don't blame them. And I actually like it as a fan that's just used to the sometimes ho-hum crowds that the WWE goes to in the various cities in the United States. It's nice to hear the Puerto Rico go crazy. It's nice to hear Saudi Arabia go crazy. It's nice to hear Montreal go crazy. It's all these different places. It's nice to see, Clash at the Castle last year. These international crowds are a dream. So I have no problem with them going overseas. Imagine a WrestleMania overseas. And they tease that heavily, right? I would love to see an overseas WrestleMania. So it's globalizing the brand. It's business strategy, and it's a smart one. Now, okay, well, first of all, I should have started off with, I'm glad you're alive. That should have been like first order of business here, right? And I'm glad you're alive. And that what's going on with all the craziness is, not where you are. However, it's still, that'd be like if I'm in New York, right? I'm upstate. That would be my equivalent of something going down in New York City. And I'm like, well, it's down there and it won't come up here. So don't let your guard down, as I'm sure right? Like, I hope nothing happens. But it's always, it's always the really awful things that sometimes that happen that people don't think would ever happen. Like 9/11. People never thought that would happen. And then it happened. And then what happened on October 7th in Israel? People never thought would happen. And it happened. Right? Things like that. But anyway, I don't want to go on a spiel about it. I'm sure you think about it enough with your daily life. Now, Raw versus SmackDown. Okay. You can't guilt me into caring about Raw versus SmackDown because of a potential, World War III or what's going on in Israel. That's not fair. You can't play that card. All right. If we're talking strictly like pro wrestling and taking real world events out of it, then I think it's a horrible idea. I think Raw versus SmackDown is a horrible idea. It has always been a horrible idea outside of inter-promotional matches that used to happen only on big pay-per-views. And I've gone over why this is a bad idea. There's no good marketing in it. It sounds good on paper, and I understand the temptation to do it, and I understand why they did it year over year. But you can't tell me that there's a real rivalry going on when it's only dictated by the calendar, right? By what month you're in. That's what tells you is when you're supposed to hate the opposing brand. That doesn't make sense. And there's no consequences anyway. They're all exhibition matches. It's all for pride. But anyway, thanks, Jerome, and I will talk to you soon. Let's keep rolling, baby.
Podcast world, this is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Record you live on another chilly, brisk Wednesday morning. And let's get to your favorite show to come on every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Veer Mahaan Report. Now, the Veer Mahaan Report took place this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw, live from Dallas, Texas, in American Airlines Arena. And even though the Indian share of my guys, Sangha, Jinder Mahal, and of course, Veer Mahaan, they did show up last week in a backstage segment, I was hoping to see them in getting himself involved in this tag team match of two baby faces of the Alpha Academy and the New Day. And to no avail, they did not show up, they did not interrupt. I was hoping to see them get involved because, this two babyface tag team, so I'm thinking, hey, maybe the In This Year might show their presence and interrupt the match, but that didn't happen. It was a solid match, by the way, between the Alpha Academy and the New Day, but that's neither here nor there because I was expecting the In This Year to finally be back in action, but hopefully they will be back after Crown Jewel, because I know next week is the big show of the Crown Jewel on Saturday, November 4th. With that being said, this is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Be kind to one another. Stay healthy, my friends, and always, peace.
It just wouldn't be a Wednesday without hearing you, DJ. I have to say, Wednesdays would not feel right. My Wednesday nights would not feel complete. I'd be up all night sweating, wondering what's wrong. Without you, man. And I mean that half seriously, right? It just it's a Wednesday delight. All right. Now, yeah, the End of Sheer did not appear. That's kind of part and parcel with how they've treated them lately until last week, right? Last week we saw them. I think you're going to see maybe them show up on Raw this week, or a surprise entry as some kind of, or a surprise attack rather at Crown Jewel. They have to appear at Crown Jewel, do they not? For obvious reasons. I'm not saying they should win the tag titles at Crown Jewel, but I'm saying that they, especially given we already have, now we again have a heel tag team, but they could be involved if needed in a multi-team match, as if we don't already have enough multi-person matches. So that's possible, and I'd actually think it's probable that we see the End of Sheer on Monday Night Raw in, or at the very least, or at the most rather, in Crown Jewel in a prominent matchup, or at least show up and attack somebody. So I don't understand why they're not using these guys. I said the last week, the week before that, they have talent, they have chemistry, they've got a presence, they've got the mouthpiece, they've got it all. And I don't know what they're waiting for, especially with how much they just toss the tag team divisions for both men and women to the side a lot of times. And really, the tag teams right now are involved in like factions. The big tag teams are like faction based. They're not true tag teams. But all right. Thank you, DJ. Hopefully next week we're talking about a potential Veer Mahan and Sangha matchup at Crown Jewel. Let's keep it rolling.
Axe, the French guy here, wanted to talk about something this week because I think I heard the podcast of Anthony DeMarco. I think it was 2 weeks ago on the WWE podcast, saying that at this point we had enough of Roman Reigns' title reign. It is getting to the point where it's just ridiculous, and I couldn't say less. I couldn't say that I dislike Roman Reigns. It's just that it's ridiculous now. Roman Reigns defended the title, like 2 times before, since WrestleMania? That is getting to a point where his absentee, his part-time schedule is hurting the championship, his character, the Bloodline story, the WWE as a whole, making it ridiculous in the term of the WWE, because I don't know who is making the deal, so for him not showing up, but I don't know. I think if WWE had the choice, it would make him like on a week, not a weekly basis, but like once every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. This is completely ridiculous, and this hurts his championship reigns. This hurts whoever is going to win against him, because at this moment, I can tell you, I'm not hyped anymore about Roman Reigns. Whenever he shows up, when he says, acknowledge me, I don't buy it anymore. When he says, oh, I missed you, making the badass guy and everything, that worked some months ago. But now, it is ridiculous. I don't believe him. I can't believe him anymore at this moment. Cool. I like Roman Reigns. What they need to do is drop the belts, have a more part-time schedule. Schedule The Rock for a face-off, even if it's a match of like 2 or 3 minutes. We don't even care about the match. We care about the story. That's all for me for this week. So tired of Roman Reigns. Have him drop the belt against someone. I don't know. Build better Cody Rhodes and have him drop the belt against him. that's enough. That's enough, guys. I guess.
All right, Alex, good to hear from you. Listen, this Roman Reigns run, I think the distinction here, or the clarification, the important point is that we acknowledge that this is a historic run. It's a run that most of us in our lifetimes will never see again in terms of length. We understand that, we respect it, we get it. But this is now become kind of a toxic run. And what I mean by that is, Alex, you brought up a point that this is hurting everyone. It's hurting everyone and everything at this point. It's only benefiting stats. The only one benefiting from this now is Roman's resume. To say, oh, well, I'm an 1,100, soon to be 1,200 day champion. I'm about to beat Hulk Hogan. And then eventually, maybe they'll get me to Bruno Sammartino, which would, by the way, guys, he'd have to double his run. He'd have to go 6 years. It ain't going to happen. I think Bruno Sammartino is going to forever remain in that spot. But they're coming damn close. And Roman right now, it's toxic. There's no other way to put it. It's toxic because no one's benefiting anymore. Yes, okay, follow LA Knight. Number one, it does feel rushed. Number two, you know the outcome. Number three, Roman pads his stats by showing up every 4 months to defend his belt. That'd be like me going into WWE. I miraculously win, say, the United States Championship, right? And then I don't show up for 4 months. And I'm saying, well, I'm an over 100-day champion. But are you? It's lying with numbers. Like, you're a 100-day champion, but like you won it and haven't defended it since you won it. So like, you got to dig beyond the surface, and that's a lot of what Roman's run has been, is padded stats, specifically the last 18 months. I mean, you're talking like hundreds and hundreds of days being padded to this run and saying everyone's supposed to say how historic and amazing it is. Well, yeah, I could go home and hide too and say I'm still the champion and not defend it. And I could rack up a ton of days. So the numbers are misleading. Now, I don't need Roman defending it every single week or even every month. Even if it was every other month, but like, you go from WrestleMania to SummerSlam, and then you go from SummerSlam to Crown Jewel. He's defended it now. Think about this. Roman Reigns, and I don't count house shows. Don't give me that crap. I've had people say, oh, well, he's defended it at live events. Live events are invisible to 99.9% of us. They don't exist. He'll never drop it there. It's for the several thousand that are in attendance. It's nothing more than that. I don't want to hear that he defends his belt at live events, so that counts. It's nonsense. It does not count. So that said, putting that aside, you have, since WrestleMania, Roman's defended his belt twice. From April to November, Roman Reigns has defended his belt twice. Let that sink in. It's not okay. It's not even like, it's special to see him, but then you quickly realize, oh, well, see you in 4 weeks, maybe see you in a couple months. Like, I'm not hating on Roman Reigns. I feel bad for the men that are on that roster that have to deal with an absentee champion and a championship that they can't talk about, that they can't even acknowledge exists. I feel bad for the fans. I'm one of them that are sitting there going, yeah, okay, great. You're racking up days, but you're never here. I could do the same thing too. It's not even, it does feel special, but again, you quickly realize, you go, oh, well, yeah, okay. Like, he's here, but he's not going to have a match, and he's going to be able to just disappear for weeks on end. Whoever his next opponent is, he's going to lose, or he's going to beat that person, and then he'll disappear for another 2 months. Like, it's enough. I just don't know. And this is the question I would pose if I was sitting across the table from Triple H. what do you think at this point you're gaining beyond stats of number of days? What are you gaining from having Roman continue his run? I would love to answer that question directly, because they would say, oh, well, it's helping build new stars. Is it, though? Is it? Up until LA Knight, who was on a fire before this happened and actually feels like it's too soon, who are you making exactly? How? Guys can't even talk about it because they know you're not going to be here for months on end. That's out the window. It's special when he's here. No, that left about 2 years ago, that excuse. Like, what are you gaining? Even if Roman Reigns, honestly, truly, if we were at that 3,000-day mark where he was going to exceed Bruno Sammartino's all-time record, and he was going to be the longest reigning champion of all time, that's a hell of a title. But so what? Roman Reigns is already a lock to be a Hall of Famer. And we can all selfishly say we in our lifetimes witnessed the longest reigning champion of all time. And maybe that's what they're going with the schedule he has in order to maintain, or in order to get to that destination of being the longest reigning champion of all time. They have to come up with a schedule that would allow that to happen, where he doesn't have wear and tear on his body. He's able to charge his batteries at home and spend time with his family. He defends his belt sparingly. If that's all what this is building to, I still don't think it's worth it. I still don't, because in that span of time, you are missing out on opportunities to help build new stars, put those stars in main events for titles, for title matches, potentially having someone catch on fire. All for what? A number of days? Is that really what this boils down to? If it is, that's shameful. I mean, fans at this point are just kind of like, just like you, Alex. We're at the point now where we're just like, not everyone, but a chunk of us are looking at this Roman Reigns title run and going, I don't even care who he drops it to at this point. Can he just drop it so we can move on with our lives and breathe again with the championship on SmackDown? It's not that we want it to be totally disrespected, but we're ready to just move on, really, in any way possible. And that's crazy to say, given how often myself and others, and probably including you, we're sitting there pondering, who could it be? It could maybe help make this person's career. It could be a massive launching pad for that person. And ideally, sure, that would be a great benefit to somebody. But I'm off that bandwagon now. I don't even care. If that's also the excuse, that's weak. Again, there's such a massive downside to this that continues to compound every day, where the benefits of keeping this going are fleeting. The scales have been tipped, and they've been tipped for a long time now. The benefits do not outweigh the drawbacks, and they haven't for a very long time. So I just don't know what they think they're going to get by continuing this, even all the way to Bruno Sammartino for another 3 years. Which I really wouldn't put it past them. But I don't get it. I don't get it. All right. I think that's it, guys. Short and sweet tonight. Under an hour. I appreciate everyone's emails and voicemails. I really do. And if you guys want to join us ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the way to go. You're also going to get an exclusive podcast for the After Dark adult version of the show that drops every single week. I think it's tomorrow. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Friday, sometime Saturday. That's when the show drops, exclusive for the SmackDown tier and above. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, going ad-free, or WWEpodcast.com for all of your needs. And we have a little merch shop, too, that's available there. If you want to get some merch, coffee mugs, T-shirts, even phone cases, it's all there. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.